We have quite a diverse organisation. I've only been there for about 18 months now, but I saw some opportunity to create a model for regional community to work with, to implement, and to obviously the ultimate goal is to help our mob. And when I say help, it's not a derogatory term. I mean, assist them get their head around how difficult this is. And when I say this, that's life. We have obviously a lot of barriers historically, but we also have some barriers that are there now. The Orange Local Aboriginal Land Council, obviously as it states, is at Orange, but we deliver service to a vast area. We have partnerships that allow us to do that, but we also have commitments to our own people in our own town that take precedence at time, and obviously housing is one of those. While we don't physically deal with our own housing, we have a third party that does that and does that well, and until we feel like we have the capacity to do that and do it well, that's when we'll step in. And we're building and working on that all the time, as Latina would agree with. So I'll quickly go through, and whilst I wasn't the person having the conversation on the telephone to AHO, my boss certainly got off the phone quite quickly and came to me and said, hey, I've had this conversation and we get this opportunity to do this. So some of the key questions that were discussed and points were building relationships with housing and other service providers with a focus on tenant family to get them the services they need. So to give you an outline, we have an SHS program that we deliver in Bathurst called Going Home, Staying Home. Within that, we have a Women and Children's Refuge that has 5 sections to it that can house obviously 5 women and their families. We also have, I think, and the numbers, if I'm wrong, I'll only be a couple out. We've got 6 transitional houses and access to about 15 other properties that we can work with our homeless, our people who have been, forced for whatever reason to leave their own house. Now, the good thing about that, which I guess we're quite proud of, is that I think regionally we're the only Aboriginal organisation delivering a mainstream service. So whilst we have 50% of our clients are Aboriginal, we deliver to non-Indigenous people. So, and what that for us means is that we're actually getting that side of the community and insight into us and how we do business. And it is very, very different. So we believe strong relationships is about being inclusive and inclusive in the way we do business and the facets of our business. We have staff from our SHS program. I failed to mention that we also have the Indigenous Ability Links program regionally in the Western region. That's in what's called the Western Alliance with Deniliquin Lands Council and Broken Hill Lands Council. So we have 15 full-time Aboriginal linkers across the Western region. And I've instilled into them, I guess in my time, is that for us to be able to deliver service to our mob properly, we actually have to know what's going on. So that means conversation, and not just conversation internally, but conversation with all of our partners and all of our potential partners and across the sector. And I don't just mean housing, I'm talking, aged care, disability, childcare. We meet regularly. We have a schedule of meetings that we actually insist that all our linkers do. And what that does, it brings strong professional relationships with our providers, and obviously having physically presented to those organisations and those providers, when we pick up the phone and chat to them, they actually can put a face to it quite quickly. There's also regular contact from us, as in management, to problem solve when we do come across hurdles, but also to negotiate, and that's negotiating the way that they do business. And we talk about culturally appropriate a lot, but in some instances, we have trouble understanding exactly what a family may need. Yes, culture plays a part, but really it's the situation that is the overarching factor. Having clear and tangible evidence for decision making both ways. So when we do come to go to the table wanting a solution, and a solution that we believe is the right one, we make sure we back it up with evidence. And we expect that too from providers who might have an issue with us, or have an issue with a tenant, or have an issue with a child who's in school. If they come to us and say that they have an issue, they need to be able to back it up. Because some of the time we know there can be racially motivated issues within our schools, within childcare centres, within disability organisations. So it's across the board. An example of a partnership that has worked well for us is actually housing, and that's mainstream. And we don't have a hell of a lot of involvement with AHO. It's very early, I think, in where we think it should be. But across the board with our SHS program, we've developed a really strong relationship with housing. So we've created a needs assessment that's a true reflection of a family situation. So giving housing all the information to make a better decision. So we actually took their template and, jigsawed it around. We had lots of discussions with different people within the community, and we came up with a template that we believed gave housing a better understanding of a family, a tenant situation. We obviously meet with them very, very regularly, and that, again, it could be for interagency, but on a management level. The other thing that we like to do with some of the families that are in our Ability Links program is we give organisations timelines on when we believe we'll be at a point where we might need their assistance. So in advance, those organisations and those departments, those providers, when we come to them, they have a knowledge of it, they have a knowledge of that particular person or family, and it makes the decision-making process much quicker, but also we believe, a lot safer and a lot more accurate. And just a quick one, with our Going Home, Staying Home program, the same deal there. We actually tailored our delivery to reflect someone's situation within the house. So if we have to go to them, if we have to meet outside of hours, if we have to, whatever it may be, that's how we do business. And I believe that since we started doing those things, our outcomes have picked up, dramatically. This is something close to my heart, holding people to account. So in this one, it's holding each other to account to deliver what they have promised for the tenant or the family. And again, if you can keep the family well, the rest falls into place. And I guess that's been talked about a lot over the last day or so. So we ensure clarity of conversation to allow decision-making to be efficient. Because again, we all know that housing's time poor. Anyone who have or has dealt with housing mainstream will understand that. And we include housing in the way we make decisions. So beforehand, when we sit down and have a discussion at a management level or within a staff meeting, and we're discussing clients, whatever it may be, we always think about how we need to present that. What's the best way for us to present that information to housing to ensure that we get a better result? And that obviously takes all different forms and shapes. The bottom one, asking for housing to make decisions on the now, not on a client history. I don't know how many people in here would have ever had someone ask for a house who's been blacklisted, who's can't get a private rental, that whole process. When we discuss clients with housing now, our relationship is such that we can have the conversation on the now. Yes, a client's past does come into account, but if we can demonstrate that the now is good and the now is actually going to get a result for both parties, then obviously, the decisions flow from there. Tenants' families have rights, but they also have responsibilities to do their part. In all of our work with families across our service, we ensure we speak the truth. And in return, we ask the same of them. When I say we speak the truth, we don't go in there and overpromise. We hear that a lot and everyone talks about it, but it's very easy to do that when you have someone who's upset with you or who is demanding something, right there and then, to not do that. And especially if you're at the coalface and you don't, one of our staff who doesn't have a lot of experience, it's something that we drum into our staff. Have I pressed the button? No. Yeah, it's something we drum into our staff from day dot. Holding a family accountable does not have to be done with a big stick. A lot of the time, that's how housing works. That's how a lot of the community housing providers that we work with in that sector, that's how they work. Generally speaking, that doesn't get a very good result. It gets a result for them, but it doesn't obviously get a result for our mob. So in that regard, we like to make sure that if those conversations are being had with any of our clients, that we have them, that we talk with housing or we talk with the community housing provider, and we ensure that we're involved in that conversation. And we empower our clients with responsibility. In that, we make sure that we're there to nurture them through that process, but also to educate. And I think I heard that yesterday a lot, that educating our mob and even our housing providers is an important facet moving forward. So, and I guess, depending on the situation, I guess there can be all levels of involvement from housing or AHO's end, but at the end of the day, I think the responsibility lies with us. Now, I'm not an expert on this, so bear with me. When people from different areas are brought into the same location, this can cause conflict. How do we manage this within tenancy law? I know it from first hand, having a family that came from Warren, Brewarrina, Burke, and were moved to Dubbo into a housing commission area. I saw it firsthand, I guess, that part of it. But I guess it comes back to understanding cultural and historical conflicts. So, and that's a really difficult one. How do you teach somebody making a decision within a government organisation about that? Without first-hand experience, or people with first-hand experience being involved in those decision-making processes, that'll never happen. So I guess it comes back to us, the people who have been involved in that and have had first-hand, actually getting an opportunity to partake in that conversation. The three strikes and you're out policy means that the conflict never ends. It's a never-ending cycle. And we all know, and I guess, having a refuge as part of our business, I see this a lot, whilst I'm not directly involved with those clients because I'm a bloke. I do get a lot of stuff come over my table about having decisions with housing, or having making decisions with police, whoever it might be. It's very easy for someone to get a strike. And if you've got a history with any service provider or with police, the opportunity and also the regularity of those strikes can mean that you're forever within the cycle. Housing needs to get a better understanding. Housing needs to get better in understanding Aboriginal communities, including Aboriginal providers. And I think that's happening within AHO. I believe that's right. Am I over time? Or I'm good? But, mainstream-wise, they definitely have got very little idea of what an Aboriginal community actually looks like. They think it's, that social housing area of a town. But little do they understand that we don't all live there, and definitely, I guess, within our SHS provision, we have a lot of conversation with providers and housing in particular about what our community looks like. I think everyone will agree on this one. Services need to be funded or partnerships developed to provide what is needed. I won't go into the complex client stuff, but to give an example of how a partnership can actually, in some cases or instances, replace the funding part of that, is that we've recently gone into a tripartite agreement with Mission Australia and Orange Aboriginal Medical Service to build an aged care facility. So something that I would imagine, a lot of regional communities and especially remote communities would like to have access to, and that is an Indigenous specific aged care facility in Orange. We got knocked back, but they loved the idea. The only problem was we were asking for about 25% of the national budget, which they weren't obviously, conducive to doing. But they actually came out and sat with our community and with us and discussed how we can make that happen. So they're now working with OHMS, that's the medical service, to actually start doing some in-home aged care service. They're starting to build our capacity about how we might, move forward into that, with the view that, in 2 or 3 funding cycles, if we could show that we actually, know what we're doing, for one, have the ability to do those things, and show that the partnership, the tripartite partnership works, then they'll look at funding it. So, on the strength of the partnership, if it was just the Lands Council that put that particular tender in, we wouldn't have even got a conversation, I don't think. But I think because we partnered well, we chose the right partners with experience in their fields, that they took it seriously. And that, I guess, was evidenced by them coming out, and actually having that conversation. So that's me.